Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Courtside with Christy and Gabe on the Her Hoop Stats Podcast Network. I am Christy Winter-Scott, joined as always by my guy, Gabe Ibrahim. Gabe, listen, there's so much news in women's basketball this week. I mean, I don't know where to start, so I'm going to let you go ahead and get things rolling here on Courtside.
I mean, there's a ton of games. Like, honestly, so we were talking before the podcast. My eye is twitching right now. So if you guys notice that, it's because I haven't slept. Like, there's been too much going on. So I haven't slept very much in the past week and a half. So my eye is twitching and I need to get some sleep, hopefully tonight, but not right now because there is so much going on. There's a ton of stuff that was on herhoopstats.substack.com, which is our newsletter, which you should be following because there's a lot of good stuff that we're going to talk about, including Bracketology from Megan Gauer. And then you could go on Twitter, follow us at herhoopstats. Our Twitter accounts just popped up at the bottom of the screen, or at maybe beforehand. I don't know. Future Gabe's editing this. And make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube or on whatever podcast feed you're listening to us on, because there is just a ton of stuff, and we're going to be here throughout the rest of time into perpetuity. We'll be doing this podcast on the Her Hoop Stats Podcast Network. But I wanted to start with Bracketology. Megan came out with her Bracketology for so far this season. So this was 2 days ago. So basically through the games until Monday. Yeah, through January 10th. She has it. And she has her top 16 seeds. And I found them to be pretty interesting. So her top 4 seeds, so these would be your 4-1 seeds currently, are South Carolina, Stanford, NC State, Louisville.
Okay.
Nothing crazy. I would say nothing crazy there. I'll read you off the next 4 because I think it gets pretty interesting at the next 5. So we have Tennessee at 5, Indiana at 6, Maryland at 7, LSU at 8, UConn at 9, round out the top 10, Iowa State. So in that top 10, I think it's very interesting how high Tennessee is. Because I feel like Tennessee's just kind of been creeping up this year. Like they kind of snuck up on me. Kelly Harper's team, they're really good.
They are.
I'm a little surprised to see them at 5. So did anything else stick out to you in that top 10, or you want to talk about Tennessee?
No, I think also, Arizona, I know they're at 11 on Megan's list, but I know that they were upset by USC. So I understand that was their first loss of the year, but I still think they should be in that top 10 area. And with Tennessee, I think they've been consistent, and I think that's why they've been slowly creeping up under the radar in the respective national polls. And Kelly Harper has done a magnificent job. And I don't know about you, but when I watch her coach, there's something about her body language, her persona, her approach with her players that reminds me so much of the late, great, iconic Pat Summitt that it is beyond insane. And I saw that with her when she was coaching elsewhere, but just to see her coaching a Tennessee team, I think, I don't know if that draws it closer to the heart there, but boy, she really reminds me of Pat Summitt.
Well, and it makes sense. I mean, I think in her book, Sum It Up, Pat calls Kelly her favorite player,
because it's her.
Kelly, exactly, as a player that she didn't have to worry about a lot of the other things with that you have to worry about with players. And that makes sense that she steps in and becomes a coach of a team that looks like a Pat Summitt team.
Exactly.
And you got to say they're really good. I mean, they have 1 loss to Stanford, 11-point loss, which, hey, Stanford's really good. That happens. Right. The wins are pretty good. So we have a win against Virginia Tech here. They beat Kansas, beat South Florida, who's a pretty good team. They beat Texas A&M, who was ranked. Ole Miss is pretty good, and they smoked them. They smoked those last 2 teams I mentioned. However, they haven't played any of the big, they haven't played South Carolina, is what I'm trying to say. And that's what I'm waiting for with this team, because they have UConn, and hopefully that game happens. UConn's back in action.
Right, they are.
And South Carolina, and then they also have Kentucky, Georgia, the rest of the SEC, obviously. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a possibility that we could get 2 SEC teams in the top 4, because currently we have 2 ACC teams there. I don't think both ACC teams are going to get into that top 4 spot. if I had to guess at what the top 4 seeds will be, if things go as expected, we got South Carolina, Stanford, the ACC champion, and the Big Ten champion. Right. Probably.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, you're looking at Indiana right there with Maryland at 6 and 7. And, I could easily see those two creeping up as well. I mean, Indiana beat Maryland. I know that earlier this season, but the season's a long season.
Oh, yeah.
And, I think that's the first time out of 13 games that Indiana beat Maryland, and it was a fantastic game. And Brenda Free said that it was, the experience of Indiana was shining through. And I think that's what's going to carry forward for the Hoosiers.
And I think that familiarity with Indiana actually gives them a little bit leg up. Like with Indiana, Maryland, Louisville, NC State, we've seen all those teams get deep in the tournament, whereas we haven't seen Tennessee, this group of Tennessee, obviously. Yes, right. I'm well aware of what Pat Summitt did. There goes my eye twitching, thinking about people telling me that I don't remember Pat Summitt. But we've seen those teams do it recently. And I think it kind of gives them a bump. But here's the thing, right? If South Carolina were to lose to Tennessee and they don't win the double championship, so meaning the regular season and conference tournament championship.
Right.
I could see South Carolina still being a top seed, because I think regardless, honestly, unless South Carolina completely falls apart, which is not going to happen, they're going to be a top seed to me at this point. So if someone beats them and wins an SEC championship, whether it is regular season or conference tournament,
right,
I think we're in line for 2 SEC teams in the top, and then we're talking about someone else getting bumped
out. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think, that's what makes conference play so intriguing, right? Across the board, not just in the SEC, but across the board, because, there's so many teams that are in the top 16 seeds that are placed right now by Megan, that, anything can happen, and with the topsy-turvy cancellations and all the things going on, there are a lot of other factors that are involved. So I just think it's going to be interesting moving forward to see what this looks like in a couple of weeks, after a couple of teams have played each other once or twice, in conference play. And then of course, down the stretch in February, as you're headed into the tournament and regular season, teams being crowned, I think it's going to be really, really contentious, which we love. Right. But I think it's going to be really fun to see how things pan out and which teams can stay the most consistent and the most healthy. I think those 2 components obviously are going to be key factors.
Yeah, no, and the healthy now is just like, I don't even know what to say at this point. Like,
it's not ankle, it's like ankles and overall health.
Well, it's like UConn has both problems. They somehow picked up both problems, and now they're coming back, and I think they play Butler coming up. But I think you look at the other thing that stood out to me was LSU being ahead of UConn and Arizona. So you mentioned Arizona. UConn, to me, I've just always assumed they're going to get the benefit of the doubt just because they have so much talent. But it's interesting to see them kind of falling down a lot of lists because they haven't played, and people are projecting out to say, hey, look, like this team may not have everyone. They may not have the chance to get fully healthy, let alone stay healthy now.
Right.
So LSU has been the beneficiary of that. And I think I think LSU personally deserves, drop my phone. I think LSU personally deserves to be above UConn and Arizona, to be honest. Do you? Yeah.
I mean, they've been great. I mean, I think from going unranked to start the season to moving into, top 15 area in a lot of the national polls respectively. I mean, I think it's been remarkable to see what's been done early on for LSU. So yeah, I mean, I think right now on this day, I agree with what you're saying. But I think, as I said, once we really gain some traction and move on through conference play, I think the story is really going to be told, and it's going to be very clear as to, what the top 16 seeds will look like.
Yeah, no, I think it will be too. I'm just interested because like Arizona, to me, I'm gonna look at LSU's, let me see what's LSU's best win. Is LSU's best win a 6-point loss against South Carolina? I guess that's because they have wins against. The wins against Georgia, the wins against Texas A&M, those are impressive. A win against Iowa State, impressive. Missouri State, impressive. Loss at home to FGCU is a little worrisome, but FGCU is a really great team. Did I say FSU? I meant FGCU.
FGCU, Florida Gulf Coast, with my guy down there, Mr. Semesco. But go ahead.
And then Arizona, though, I mean, they haven't beaten almost anyone outside of that Louisville game. I know Louisville's really good, but that was the second game of the season. So I think Arizona I would pick LSU to go to trend up and Arizona trend down a little bit.
I mean, the Arizona win over Missouri State. I mean, Missouri State, God bless them. I mean, Amaka Agugwa, they have a couple of key injuries right now. We're talking about health, right? I mean, their point guard and their center are both out for the season with injuries. And I mean, you never want to see that. And, they started the season ranked, I think they were definitely in the top 25. They were hovering around 20 to 25 in that segment of the rankings. But I mean, just to have those devastating injuries, I mean, you can't control that, obviously, but you just try to do the best you can. And that's not watering down any kind of victory over that team. But I just wanted to put that out there, that they were really slated to have another great season at Missouri State, and to have those injuries, that's just tough. That's just tough for them.
Missouri State has been to a number of Sweet 16. I don't know if that streak is. I don't remember if they made it to the Sweet 16 last year.
I think they did when Kelly Harper was there before she left for Tennessee. I know they went deep into the tournament like that. I believe it was a Sweet 16 run she had before she left for Tennessee.
The last two seasons they've made it to, the last two tournaments, obviously we did not have a tournament in 2020.
With the 2020,
So the last two tournaments they've made it to the Sweet 16. But like you're saying, they are dealing with injuries, but
which is rough. I mean, she's a great coach, and they have always, been a great team, and a great program. So, healthy prayers going out that way for them on that. But
in all directions,
getting back to it. Say it again.
All healthy vibes to all teams. Just stay healthy, because we want to see good games. But I'm sorry.
No, everybody, we're sending it out, right? Because wow. But absolutely. I mean, but I going back to LSU, I really think that, I could see that, them trending higher, and maybe Arizona as they get into conference play. Again, I think that's the truth teller right there. Like when you get into playing, every other day, or, every 2-3 days against top-notch competition, that's going to give you a great test of your character and a great test of your sustainability. And I think that's going to be really interesting to watch.
Yeah. It's also going to be interesting to see how much, losses factor in, right? Because I mean, we see this all the time, right? Like South Carolina is not getting dinged at all for the Missouri loss. And I agree with that. But let's say LSU loses to Missouri. Well, now, are we now going to say losing to Missouri is in fact a bad thing, or we don't believe you as much? It's like, there's a lot of different ways to interpret conference play that I think are going to be pretty interesting down the stretch, especially for, teams like Stanford, teams like South Carolina, where they had these big non-conference schedules that have produced a really great resume heading into conference play. Like now, how do we balance those two things? I find it really interesting.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what saved South Carolina is who they played, and them sitting at number one. And, it's not, they get a pass per se, but
they kind of
get a pass. I actually do. But I mean, we've said it before, and I'll say it again. I mean, Dawn Staley has just been masterful at what she's been able to do at South Carolina, and not just this year. I mean, just over the course of the time that she's been there, just rebuilding, revamping, and then creating an environment there that is so much fun. I mean, just to watch. I mean, even if you're not a fan of South Carolina, you're watching that game because you love the game of basketball. You love women's basketball, earning the respect of that area and the fans that are there to support it. I mean, come on, you can't not love that the most. I mean, it's beautiful to watch. And just knowing Dawn, I'm super proud of her and what she's been able to do there.
And she's a podcaster just like us. So now
I know.
we'll all have the same. We'll all have the same qualifications. basketball podcaster.
I love it. It's called Net Life, I believe.
Yeah, Net Life, yeah.
So fun. And I was tweeting with her today, and she was tweeting back and forth, and it was really funny this morning. But yeah, kudos to her on that. Welcome to the pod life. That's what she's calling it. So
hey, as long as you're also listening to Courtside, you can go listen to that podcast. But if you're not listening to Courtside, no other podcasts. Keep it here. We'll let you know what Don Staley
for all of us. Yeah, there's room out here for all of us. There's plenty of space in the space.
But yeah, so that's bracketology. I just found Megan's take interesting. It is a little different than the other bracketologies I've seen out there. And I am interested to see how. I mean, I think, like I said, the way it's going to shake out for the top 4 seeds should be pretty straightforward. But there's a lot of different things that are going to come into play. And I think this year could be one of the years where we're pretty angry about who is seed 3 and 4.
Yeah, I mean, it could look different. I mean, we're looking at it today. I'm telling you, it's going to be a shuffle, and I can't wait to see what that looks like. But I think Megan was spot on for today, and what this looks like for the top 16 seeds for sure.
And that's what she was doing it for today, not necessarily what it's going to be, because we obviously have a lot. We got a lot of sorting to do with a lot of conferences that are. Exciting is one way to put it. Confusing is another way to put it. I think the next place I want to take you to is a conference I find extremely confusing. It is it's not your conference because you played in the ACC.
I did.
Like a good Maryland Terrapin should.
Oh.
But they're now in the Big Ten, and you obviously cover the Big Ten for the Big Ten Network. Yep. I'm deeply confused as my eye twitch. Because should tell you, I'm deeply confused by the Big Ten. So Northwestern beats Iowa, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Iowa then gets crushed. Oh, no, sorry. Northwestern then gets crushed by Ohio State. Okay?
Right.
Ohio State got crushed by Michigan. Okay?
Yeah.
Michigan got crushed by Nebraska, right?
Yeah.
And then Nebraska lost to Iowa.
Yeah.
And so now we're full circle with the middle of this conference. Not to mention the struggles that we mentioned with Maryland last week, how good Indiana is. Right. But Indiana could be beat, certainly. I think they have some reasonable concerns that could make them susceptible to an upset. So I don't know. Help me make. Oh, I didn't even mention Purdue and Michigan State. Purdue and Michigan State have no idea what to do with these teams. So just help me make sense of the way you think of this conference, right? So I think we probably have Maryland, Indiana up top, but then what?
Then chaos. I mean, at this point, it's just topsy-turvy in the Big Ten is putting it mildly. I just think, we saw this coming into the season, I believe, with, 4 teams returning from a Sweet 16 run in Indiana with an Elite 8 run, and with everyone basically returning everyone. So it's basically okay, let's run this back. And we've seen that. It's like pickup, right? It's like you're at the park all day and you run it back, and the team that stays wins it all, and they stay on all day. But it's not like that. It's like the teams are rotating through on, hey, run it back. Hey, you guys are in now, and then now we run it back, and now teams are beating one another. And I think that's the vibe of the Big Ten right now, is that night in and night out, you just don't know who's going to be playing at their best that night. And I think you've got to bring your best game. And that just goes to show that when that ball is falling through the net, things change. And I think, for Iowa in particular, in that Northwestern game, they were not shooting the ball well at all. And then in the Nebraska game, I was out there for that one. Can I just tell you that McKenna Warnock was 6 of 7 from 3 in that game. Unreal. And one of them, I swear, she had her heels on the logo and pulled, and that thing went straight down. I was like, okay, you know what? When that shot is falling, and when those shots are falling, and I'm talking threes, because I think the teams that have found success have found the bottom of the net from range.
Oh yeah.
But I think, when those shots are not falling, they have trouble. Especially when they rely on a chunk of their offense coming from that area of the floor. So, I think that's been a trend in the Big Ten. Okay, if those shots are going down, then okay, you're going to probably win this game. And if you can play defense and push people off that 3-point line and make it difficult and be disruptive, that changes the game. But also it helps to have, players like at Northwestern. Oh, help me out. Help me out.
Veronica Burton.
Yes, please. Veronica Burton had the 8 steals in that game. I was going to say Lindsay Pulliam because I've been
I know
her for 4 years.
Yeah.
And I say Northwestern and that name pops up right away. But Veronica Burton, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. Just ridiculous.
Three times. She's gonna.
Go ahead and just chalk it up for this year. Who has 8 steals in one game? Who does that? She was just alert and just amazing with her anticipation skills. She said that, they had all that time off, probably had only one practice before that Iowa game. But she said that she watched the previous games with Iowa like 5 times, over that gap of time. So she was studying and anticipating and got in that game and was like a whirlwind and just got 8 steals. And when you have that kind of defensive pressure, that makes those shots more difficult to fall. And that's what happened with Iowa.
Well, it's like it's so hard for Northwestern. Like you were saying, like, teams need to make their shots. I feel make shots on a good time. Yeah, I feel like Northwestern does not care about making shots. Like that is like the last thing on their priority list because
they want stops.
They want the Blizzard defense. I spent a lot of time like trying to figure it out. I still don't know. I watched like 4 videos on it. I have no idea what's going on. But I do know Veronica Burton has to be the brains of the operation. So her watching all that film was huge for them. I think that's those sorts of things actually, when you have these unfortunate breaks, your team can get better. It seemed like Northwestern did. And those 8 steals were the most by any player against a Power 5 team this year. So no one has done that this year. And she was amazing, both ends. I thought she was just unbelievable. And I think it really threw Iowa for a loop. But I think that's why this conference is so confusing.
Yes.
Every team is just wildly different in both strategy, talent, and the ways they're trying to get to you on both ends of the court. You have a team like Maryland, right? That they want to push the pace. They want to move the ball fast. But then you got other teams that are trying, and Iowa falls into the moving fast category. And you have other teams like Indiana who they're desperately trying to slow the ball down, and Northwestern is too. So it's like, I feel like that is I don't know if there's a conference that's more challenging in that regard for coaches, in that you have to prepare for such different strategies each game.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And then when we're talking about the Northwestern Iowa game, it's like Caitlin Clark for Iowa. She had 30 points. She had 30 points in that game, but they were all in the first 3 quarters. She didn't score in the 4th quarter. So it's
she scored on the crowd.
Oh, well, yeah. She did. That was. But when a kid like that, like, she can manufacture offense, so easily, even against, some staunch defense, and I just think, that's kind of the conundrum as well. It's like, what you're going to get with Northwestern with their Blizzard defense, but then Clark can put up 30 in 3 quarters on that, but they lose, right? Iowa loses that game. But the fact that she can still do that, knowing that, you want to make her uncomfortable and she stays comfortable. That's that's a conundrum. And I just think, it's across the board. I believe in that way with so many players in the conference. And, for Nebraska, to rattle off 12 wins to start the season. And then, they've lost to Michigan State and now to Iowa. I don't know. I think they definitely need to be ranked with how they're playing. Jazz Shelley for Nebraska is a player that we need to be talking about a lot more. Do you understand me? She is so tough. Gabe, like, what a difference maker she's been for Amy Williams.
Yeah, and so, but Nebraska's not going to be ranked now because we live in the, we've said it before. It's what have you done for me lately? And their last game, I believe their last game, I didn't miss one. Yeah, the last game's a loss to Iowa. They've lost 2 of their last 3. Now it's like before New Year's, we were saying, hey, they need to be ranked. There's no reason why they should not be ranked. I know, but they're not going to be. Also, just to put Jazz Shelley has a 34 PER, which folks, that's real good. That's really good. That's quite good.
She's so tough, man. She's gonna be fantastic there. And I think, just knowing what Nebraska looked like last year without her and what they look like now, I mean, she has changed everything about their tempo and their toughness. Those are the two things that I've seen with her addition to the team.
Well, luckily the road gets so much easier for Nebraska. They go at Indiana, at Iowa. So good luck, Huskers.
Okay. We're talking about run it back, right? With Iowa, that's going to be a goodie.
Oh, you were in Lincoln, right?
I was, and I'm going to be in Iowa on Sunday.
Oh yeah.
The rematch.
The rematch.
So I got to get my neck stretched out because that game was super fast. It was fun.
No, it's been a great style to watch from all these teams. I mean, I really have enjoyed a lot of the Big Ten basketball, especially if you enjoy what Indiana produces, then I think you're gonna really, really like this. But yeah, so I mean that's a team's kind of at the top, but then I mentioned, I don't know how good Purdue. I mean, we're gonna find out. Like we mentioned with bracketology. Yeah, we'll mention here at the Big Ten. We're gonna find out. But if you had to guess, Purdue and Michigan State, are these teams NCAA tournament caliber?
I think so. Oh, I thought you were going to say or something else. That's why I waited.
I usually say or something else, but then I didn't have a good thing to say. I was going to say or not, but I was like, she'll get it.
That's why I waited. I was like, wait. Oh, okay. But no, I think they have. I think they have it in them. I think they need to obviously show consistency moving forward through conference play. I think when Michigan State lost to Florida Gulf Coast, that was a tough one. But, Nia Clouden had 50 points in that game. So it's almost like, Caitlin Clark had 30 in a loss. So it's like, and then Naz Hillmon, when she had 50 against Ohio State, they lost that game. So I don't know. It's like, we see these fantastic individual performances, which is great. And I think it's much needed and it can help you, moving forward in conference play. But I think for both Purdue and Michigan State, I think they need to show consistent play, across the board for the team, not just from, their respective top players. I think they need to show team consistency offensively and defensively, moving forward through the conference, because as we said, as the teams that we've mentioned already, that's a tough road ahead, but I think that they could definitely make postseason appearances, but they have to at least go 500 in conference.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Well, and they're 2-2 and both those teams are 2-2. They're actually tied with Nebraska. And I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not right in thinking, Michigan State has some really bad losses. I forgot about some of these losses earlier in the season. So maybe they're not. I don't know. I don't know where we're going with Michigan State.
They could go if they get some conference. If they can do well in this conference, because it's so tough. I think that they could, maybe manufacture some kind of seeding in the NCAA tournament, right?
Yeah, I don't see why not. But I also, I could see them just completely falling apart and not being close to 500 in conference because of how good and weird the conference is, right? Because
it is.
You have, even at the bottom of this list of teams, we have Rutgers, no CV in Sugar this year. It's been tough, but I don't know. They could get it together. It's not like this team last year was pretty good, and it's not, that different of a team. You have Minnesota. Shouts to Carly Thieba. Carly Thieba. For winning her first game as interim coach. Now the best interim coach in the Tebow family, because Eric lost both his games. Unfortunately, shouts to Eric.
I'm not laughing, Eric. No, listen.
He's fine. They got the number one pick because of it. So
you know what? They did. And, I love that family so much. And I love that Mike Tebow, the head coach with the Washington Mystics, and Eric Tebow, the associate head coach. And, with Carly coaching and standing in for Lindsay Whalen, who had an appendectomy. So hopefully she's doing well with that. But I just think that it was such a great opportunity. But Mike Tebow has always said that Nancy Tebow his wife, is the true coach in that family. So I love that too. So shout out to all of them. I love the Tebows, and it was so cute. They gave Carly a water bath in the locker room, which was great.
I'm not sure we should be doing that, but it's fun, guys. Just keep going.
It's exciting. I mean, that was fun for her. I'm sure it was a moment.
But yeah, so to put a bow on the Big Ten, the ESPN's Bracketology, not Megan's, has 7 Big Ten teams in. So it'd be second most, tie with the ACC, behind the 10 SEC teams projected to get in. 10 SEC. All right, we only have to talk more about South Carolina. But 7 teams in would be interesting. That would exclude some of the teams we mentioned, but I don't know. I could see. Let's see if Ohio State's here. I'm pretty sure Ohio State would be. Yeah, Ohio State's on here for them. So I'd say that's probably the floor of the conference getting into the tournament. But it'll be interesting. And then, all right, I'm gonna list off a bunch of games. You let me know which ones people should definitely watch. We have Michigan State versus Ohio State tonight. You should probably listen to this after that game happens. Thursday, we have Nebraska at Indiana, Iowa at Purdue. That's on Thursday. Both those games probably gonna be pretty good. Sunday is the biggie. We have your game, Nebraska at Iowa, which everyone wants to watch because Christy's doing it. But if you have time throughout the day, you have Indiana at Purdue, Northwestern at Michigan State, Michigan at Maryland.
That's huge.
Okay. Why should I believe in Michigan?
Naz Hillmon.
Okay.
And even with that being said, Gabe, it's like, just like I said earlier, when I was thinking of Lindsey Pulliam for Northwest, it's like you say Michigan and you say Naz Hillmon. I think also, Leah Brown she is amazing, right? And when Naz Hillmon fouled out of that game earlier this year, and it was right before the overtime session, and Leah Brown just took over. In years past, I don't know if they would have been able to win a game like that. And, they beat Baylor, and that was like a run it back game because Baylor knocked them out of the tournament last year in the Sweet 16. But the fact that they were able to do that without Naz Hillmon on the floor in that 5-minute overtime session, I think that says a lot about why you should believe in this Michigan team, because it isn't just Naz Hillmon and everybody else. It's a team game, and I think that they have really displayed that. And Kim Barnes-Arico has done a tremendous job as well. Just to be able to show that it's not just Naz Hillmon, right? She's a phenomenal player. She's player of the year last year for a reason. And, she's chomping at the bit to get that again, I'm sure, for Michigan fans. But I think this the overall balance that the team has now. They have some outside scoring, and they have some relief for Naz Hillmon inside. I just, on both sides of the ball in that regard, but I think they're really more balanced this year, and that's why you should believe. But I think that game against Maryland is really going to be a true test for that balance that Michigan presents. And, Maryland now without Faith Masonis, unfortunately out with that knee injury, which I still can't process properly. This is really upsetting. But I think it's going to be a challenge for Maryland now with not as much depth. Michigan has a little bit more depth on their team and on their roster. So I think it's going to be a good game to watch for sure, just to see what that looks like for them.
Well, and Amy Dilk is back too for Michigan.
She is.
It'll
be a third game back, I believe. Yeah. Or it'll be our 4th game back because they play Penn State on Thursday.
Yeah, and she only played 1 minute in the first game of the season and got hurt. So having her back's huge, and that was a concern we had for Michigan was their depth. I think you're right. They're rounding out a bit. I think, we're Maryland. We pay attention to Maryland more acutely. But I think Maryland should win this game going away. Frankly, I just don't see if Maryland wants to be at the place that we think they are in this conference, they got to put this Michigan team away, because I think they have not only more talent, I think they have strategic advantages like we were talking about. However, sure, Naz Hillmon could go off. Sure, Leah Brown could go off. Amy Dilk could have a breakout game for this season. Not that she hasn't had those in the past, but for this season, she could come back and finally feel healthy. And now the calculus has changed. So That's going to be a biggie for seeing where this conference is going to be. And I agree. That's the one that I'm circling, although I am really excited for Nebraska, Iowa round 2.
The rematch. I know it. And I just think, going back to the Maryland game, I think with Diamond Miller being back, I just think she's gaining more and more confidence, more and more strength. I know, after the last game, she was just saying like, I'm not anywhere near where I want to be. And I'm like, you were excellent. Like you were great. But players know, you know what I mean? Like what their cardio feels like, what their bodies feel like recovery wise. So, I mean, they know best, but I mean, the eye test, I'm like, she looks great. Like she doesn't look fatigued. She doesn't look like, she's missing a step. She did say that, some of her reads and reactions were a little slow, and some of the passes that she wanted to make didn't get to where she wanted them to go, and some turnovers. I think she was more talking about maybe her rhythm on the court not being right where she wanted it to be. And that's going to come for her. I mean, she's in, obviously playing in games, she's in full speed in practices too. So that's going to help her with that kind of rhythm. But I just think having her back, I think that's going to be a challenge for Michigan just because of her length and her explosiveness in transition, number one. But I also think defensively, she's just so long and lanky. And I think she changes what Maryland looks like with her back on the floor.
Yeah. And the other thing that's been big too, since that Indiana game, and we got on Maryland for that one was, they looked not only more competent in their last 2. I mean, obviously Penn State, Minnesota stepped down in competition, but the pace, especially against Penn State, was where this team needs it to be. Their highest pace of the season. Like they need to be pushing that ball. And I think a lot of that comes from having more bodies. Obviously Faith going down is a big deal because you don't have that depth. You can't go as fast, as much, but you can still push. I think this team is going to get back to it. And we'll see. I mean, the speed should kill in this game. Maryland speed, the pace of the game should favor Maryland, but they need to get it up to there first, because you've seen them struggle to get the pace where they wanted to against good defensive opponents, which Michigan is.
But
we'll see. I'm excited for that one. I don't think I might go to that one because it's supposed to snow. Oh my God.
It's supposed to snow? Yeah,
it's supposed to snow on Sunday. Oh, right. You're going to be in Iowa. Darn
it. Well, hopefully I get back sometime this month. So we'll see.
Like I've told you, stranded's a mindset.
Oh no. Let's not put that out there. Let's take that right back out of the atmosphere. Like we don't need to be stuck anymore.
You'll be fine. The good people of Iowa know how to deal with the snow.
They do. That's a good thing.
I'm sure there'll be snow on the ground in Iowa. I don't know. I suppose my Emily told me that, my wife. She was like, you can't go to that game because it's gonna snow. I was like, okay.
No, listen to your wife. Oh, that's sweet. Newlywed.
Yeah. No. That's gonna be the one thing that continues. I listen.
That's a good thing. I'm telling you.
I'm married for a reason. I listen well.
It's a good deal.
Speaking of people who are married, actually, is Sue Bird married? We're going to talk about Sue Bird. Is Sue's married, right? I don't know.
I don't think she's married yet. They're engaged. I don't think she's married yet. Am I right? She's not married yet.
No, I don't know. I mean, they may have kept that close to their chest. Yeah, they got engaged.
They are. I mean, Candace Parker got married and we didn't know for 2 years. I mean, so we don't know. Congrats to Candace. That's my girl now. Candace Parker.
All right. I know Candace has done a lot of really, really impressive things in her career.
Yeah.
Getting married as Candace Parker and not having anyone find out for 2 years may be the most impressive thing I've ever heard.
That for me too. Mark that down. Boom. That was a jaw dropper. I was like, wait, what? And I was like, yay. Nobody knew. I mean, some people knew, but kudos to all her friends and family who knew and didn't say a word.
That's
not
good friends.
One word. That's great friends and great family. No hashtags like Candace is married. You know what I mean? Like, it was really, that was really cool. And she did it on her own time,
Honestly, that makes me
world of social media. I'm surprised. Yeah.
It makes me believe in her coaching / GM abilities, because I feel like that's one of the biggest things that a GM or coach has to do now is to keep things from leaking out. So that should go on a resume. back to Sue Bird, the other stalwart of the WNBA. She's coming back. This is going to be season 19. Season 19. Yeah, this
19.
19. She could be 41. I saw a tweet that said she was the third oldest player in WNBA history. I can't find it anymore, so I can't confirm it. I know she's a second because, as we talked about before coming on, Nancy Lieberman played at 50, which
she did.
I don't.
She played at 50. Professionally against people 30 years younger than her. But she was out there. She had her headband on. Listen, she was running, honey. She was playing. I watched it. She was out there.
Rather impressive. It's going to be impressive to see Sue Bird. I mean, obviously, we knew she had enough in the tank to come back after last season.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people expect her to retire. I didn't, but I'm going to be talking about this on a podcast with Kevin Pelton tomorrow. So, Christy, what was your reaction to all of it, and did you expect it to happen?
I did not think she was going to come back. Okay. I honestly did not think she was going to come back, and that's in the most respectful way. I just thought that after winning her 5th gold medal and, so many championships in the WNBA, I just thought that it would be it. And the fact that when she was being interviewed with Diana Taurasi after Phoenix beat them in the playoffs, and the whole crowd was saying one more year, and she's like, nah. I just thought, I'm sure that was like a knee-jerk reaction in that moment because, it was that moment. But Diana Taurasi was like, yeah, tell her, come on, and the fact that she said, yeah, I'm going to come back and do it again. Man, that game has a loud voice, doesn't it? Come on back, Sue. Hey, Sue, come on back. And she's playing. And so, I mean, I was surprised that she did because I don't know what else she has to prove in the game. I think she's just, I don't know. But the fact that she is passionate enough to be disciplined to play at that level, I respect it. I'm not mad at her. I mean, my God, if you can do it, by all means do it. She knows what it takes to play at that level. And like I said, to be disciplined, to train, to be at that level. So kudos to her. But I was surprised because I'm like, you have nothing else to prove to anyone, right? Even herself. I mean, I don't think she has to prove anything to herself either, other than let me try to do it for year 19. Yeah. Maybe that's the extra level of, fire that she needed to say yes to it.
I wonder how, I wonder how many athletes, I was going to talk about this with Richard on the podcast we did last week. I don't know if that's like a big factor for athletes retiring. We always think about it because I think that's something we think. I don't know because I haven't seen many athletes say, well, I have nothing more to prove. I feel like the reason people retire is they don't want to do it. Like I remember Isaiah Thomas, he was talking on NBA TV one time about when he knew it was time to hang it up. And he was like, I was in bed in the hotel and I didn't want to go to practice. And that was it. And I feel like that is more like, you don't know until it's time to go to practice, to the game, to the press conference day. And you're like, I really just don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I feel like that's when they retire. Cause I don't know. I mean, you're right. Sue does not need to prove anything to anyone. And that's been true for, I don't know, like honestly, like 10 years, like exactly. A decade. And it's like, she hasn't had anything to prove. She has plenty of stuff going on outside of the court to keep her going. I think it's just, cliche, but love of the game and wanting to have that chance at a title. It signals to me some things I'll talk about tomorrow a little bit more, but it signals to me that there's big things on the horizon for Seattle. It seems like, Sue's coming back. Well, why wouldn't Stu come back? Why wouldn't Jewel come back? Why wouldn't that whole core come back and try to win another title? Because when those 3 players have been healthy in the playoffs, they've never lost.
Right. So, that's true. I just think, with Sue, like what you were talking about with retirement, my mom always says, like, make sure when you retire to something. She has so many things, that she could retire to, like what you said. But I just think that, the challenge is there for her. I mean, she sees LeBron James out there in his 19th season doing it, and I just think for her, I know it's all, I mean, maybe she's not encouraged by that. I don't know. But I just think that when she will know is when she will know. And it has nothing to do with us or anybody else.
No.
And I remember when Grant Hill said that he knew that it was time for him to retire, he was warming up in the layup line and he went up to dunk it or something like that and came down funny and his knee was not right.
Mm-hmm.
And he did some like minor damage to his knee in the layup line before a game. And he said, that's when I knew that it was like, first, really, like, I'm not even in the game yet.
Yeah.
Like, we're not even like in the third quarter or something, like layup line for real. So that was when he knew. So, I mean, your body's going to tell you too. Like, your mind is always going to say you're going to play. I don't care how old you get or whatever you're going through. Your body's going to say, yeah, go ahead out there and play. But then your body is going to betray you sometimes, like Grant said in the layup line, and say like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like that's it. And, I think he played until he was 41 and Sue is 41. So, man, again, you never know, but kudos to her for wanting to go out there and do that. I appreciate the boldness of that statement. I appreciate the boldness of her character.
Oh yeah.
To want to go and play. So it's still in her to play. So play by all means and have fun.
And I feel like she could just say, I'm going for year 20 next year too. I mean, she's in great shape,
Yeah.
Takes care of her body really well.
Yeah.
Not too many major injuries to speak of.
No. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's not just one more year. All right, but quick news things that I want your reaction to.
Right.
First one is something that I just saw on Twitter. Cheryl Reeve promoted Katie Smith to associate head coach. So she'll be in charge of the assistant staff, which is Planette Pearson and Rebecca Brunson. So full former player, as was the case last year, just Katie getting a boost to associate head coach.
I love that. First of all, I love Katie. I got to know her really well when she played for the Mystics years ago. And she knew our kids when they were tiny, wee little, and oh my God. So we have a lot of memories, but just a great person and more than ready. Obviously she was head coach in New York and then now back with Cheryl Reeve, who was assistant coach with Bill Lambier and Rick Mahorn with the Detroit Shock when they won championships. So I love that connection. And I love how, coaches continue to take care of their players. Who want to coach. And I love that. So congrats, Katie, because she's listening.
It's a great pipeline that Cheryl Reeve is going to have, because now
absolutely
it's pretty easy to hire someone when they have the success and coaching behind one of the greatest coaches. And she's it's been a really good initiative that she's put in place of getting former, not only women, but former players and people who can step into head coaching roles. The other news that I saw, so Rachel Galligan is reporting that Stephanie White is among the finalists for the Phoenix Mercury head coaching job.
Oh boy.
Which we should find out about within the next 3 days, because free agency starts in 3 days.
Wow.
So that has to be wrapped up pretty soon. And then Women's Basketball 24/7 is reporting that there are 4 finalists. It's Stephanie White, Teresa Witherspoon, Natalie, oh God, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. And Vanessa
Nygaard. Okay.
Let me say
she played at Stanford, yes?
I've never heard of this.
I think Vanessa Nygaard played at Stanford, I believe. Am I wrong?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe I think she did. Sorry,
okay.
I'm looking up Natalie Nakasi. I'm sorry if I mispronounce her name. I will come back with the correct pronunciation next one. But I haven't heard of her because she's an assistant coach with the Agua Caliente Clippers in the G League, and she was previously with the Clippers as an assistant coach. Interesting name. She played for UCLA when I was 5 years old, so that's why.
Oh, wow. Oh, see, and that means I should know her, and I'm struggling because East Coast, West Coast thing. I don't know her.
Yeah, I don't know her either. But interesting name to be out there. Obviously, the Stephanie White has long history. Indiana Fever head coach. I believe she went to the finals one year.
She did.
Yeah, she coached the team in the finals. Coach at Vanderbilt. And then Vanessa Nygaard is currently. Where is she right now? She's with Las Vegas. She's on WNBA. Well, perhaps not. I don't know. Las Vegas is still really confusing.
I don't know what's happening.
She was on Bill Laimbeer's staff in Las Vegas, and like you said, attended Stanford from 1993 to 1998. I don't need to tell you Teresa Witherspoon's. Do I need to go over Teresa Witherspoon's resume? I don't think
I mean, I think everyone knows about Teaspoon, and she's with the Pelicans now in the NBA as an assistant coach. And so, wow, some great names there. And like you said, it's going to be probably done by the end of the week. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
It has to happen by the end of the week. I mean, it
has to. Yeah, the free agency, man.
They've gone to the end of the wire here. Mercury waiting to hire a new head coach, but that'll be done. Interesting 4 names, and that'll mean that we are going up in percentage for women's coaches in women's basketball in the WNBA. I'm not going to do the rough count in my head, but I think Jackie Powell had an article about why there are more female head coaches in the WNBA, and it's because of what stuff like Cheryl Reeve is doing in Minnesota, that her whole staff is female. Her and the people that she's creating a pipeline for are women. So it is going to be interesting if those 4 are really the only 4 names involved. We're getting another female head coach at WNBA.
I love it. And I think, the opportunities are there. And I think that's what everyone has been talking about for years. Women need to be the ones making the decisions. And when that happens, more women are earning opportunities, right? To be involved. And I think that has really changed the scope of things for women who want to be professional coaches, whether it's in the NBA or the WNBA. I just think that it's, it's time, for the opportunities to be created that way for us.
I think we're getting there. So it's going to be interesting. And then we'll see what happens with Sue Bird whenever she retires. I'm sure she'll be on this market too. And we'll be talking about her as a potential head coach. So that's all I got. I mean, we could talk all day. I'm actually going to go watch the Iowa State Kansas State game from yesterday because I heard it was pretty crazy. I want to get a good look at Ashley Jones and Ayoka Lee, who are draft prospects. So that's what I'm doing with the rest of my day. But otherwise, I don't know. A lot of women's basketball. We'll be back. Next week, I don't know. We'll figure out what we're going to do because I'm sure something crazy is going to happen this weekend.
Yeah, with the free agency. Oh my gosh, always a blast.
Oh my God, we have cores. I'm sorry. I just remembered.
What? Come on back.
No, there. So I did want to mention one thing before we get off Courtside.
Oh, we're about to cut the lights out.
We were about to do. Rachel Galligan reported that. Well, this might be on the transactions list, but Rachel Galligan reported that the Sun have cored Jonquel Jones, so she cannot negotiate with other teams. Yeah, so it's official. Nice. The Connecticut Sun cored Jonquel Jones, so she cannot negotiate with other teams, making it more likely that she will be back in Connecticut. Of course, she could force her way out through a trade, like I saw Natasha Howard do last year.
She did.
That's not expected to happen at the moment.
No.
We'll see. That was the last thing I got.
Oh, that's all right. But that's good news, though. Jonquel Jones, we love to see it. And I know the Connecticut Sun fans are excited, too. But we have more women's hoops in front of us, and that is going to be exciting to continue to chop it up with you guys next week about the free agency and the WNBA, and obviously all the great things going on at the NCAA level and those top 16 seeds. We're going to see what they look like as conference play proceeds. But for right now, they're going to cut the lights out on us. We don't have to go home, but we got to get up out of here, Gabe. It has been a blast, as usual, sitting courtside with you, my friend, on this edition of Courtside with Christy and Gabe on the Her Hoop Stats Podcast Network. We will see you next time.